They often mistook his quiet for anger, though he felt neither heat nor rage inside himself. What lived in him was something heavier and duller, like carrying a full glass for too long and worrying it might spill. Long before he was tired of working, he became tired of being watched. From the outside, he looked composed, steady, reliable in the way people liked to describe when they meant harmless. He was thanked for staying calm in moments when others were allowed to be loud. Calm stopped feeling like a choice and started feeling like a rule. There was no single moment when this lesson arrived, no dramatic confrontation to point back to. It came through glances that lingered too long and silences that felt instructional. He learned what was expected by watching what was rewarded. When he spoke thoughtfully, people nodded as if surprised. When he paused before responding, they called him mature. Each compliment stacked gently on his shoulders until they formed a weight no one else seemed to notice. He realized early that anger was not an option granted to him. Frustration could be read as attitude, sadness as weakness, honesty as threat. So he learned to translate every feeling into something acceptable. At work, he was often the one asked to keep the peace. When conversations grew tense, eyes drifted toward him without explanation. Nobody asked if he wanted this role. They simply assumed it fit. He watched colleagues raise their voices and still be called passionate. He watched doors slammed and apologies quickly forgiven. When he imagined doing the same, he pictured consequences that felt permanent. Restraint became exhausting, not the kind of tiredness sleep could fix, but the slow drain of always editing himself. Every sentence was measured before it left his mouth. People called him strong, but strength was never what he felt. What he carried was responsibility for everyone else's comfort. Being the example meant never being allowed to be human in public. At home, silence felt different. His shoulders dropped the moment the door closed behind him. It surprised him how much effort it took just to return to neutral. He began to understand that composure had a cost no one talked about. It demanded constant awareness, constant restraint, constant patience, and it never came with rest. He thought about how often he had been told to rise above it. The phrase sounded noble until he noticed who was never asked to rise at all. Rising required energy, and energy was finite. As a child, he was praised for being well-behaved. Adults loved that he didn't talk back or cause trouble. They never saw the questions he swallowed or the confusion he carried. As he grew older, expectations sharpened, but were spoken less directly. Advice came wrapped in concern, correction disguised as care. He learned to read these cues fluently. People mistook his silence for agreement. When he finally spoke, they seemed startled. Calm did not guarantee being heard. Some days he wanted to say he was tired, but tired sounded like complaint, and complaint felt unsafe. So he chose quieter words. He wondered how many others carried this same fatigue quietly. How many had mistaken survival for maturity? The thought comforted him and unsettled him at once. One evening, he caught his reflection in a darkened window. His expression looked practiced, neutral, protective. He wasn't sure when protection had turned into erasure. He began testing small acts of honesty, saying no without apology, pausing without explanation. Each act felt risky at first. Some people grew uncomfortable, others adjusted quickly. A few seemed relieved. He didn't stop being thoughtful. He simply stopped carrying the entire emotional load alone. Respect, he learned, did not require exhaustion. Old instincts still surfaced. He softened his voice without thinking, swallowed words out of habit. But now he noticed, instead of obeying, being tired did not mean being weak. It meant he had been carrying something real for a long time. His composure had been earned. When people said he wasn't angry, he let it pass. He knew the truth lived deeper than anger. What he felt was fatigue shaped by expectation. Within that tiredness, he found something steady, a dignity that didn't rely on performance, a self that existed even when unseen. Respectability had been a language he learned to survive. It was not a rule he had to live by forever. He could choose when calm was kindness and when it was concealment. In letting go of being the perfect example, he became more honest, more present, more human. If this story stayed with you, there are more like it waiting here. If you liked this story, listen to another one.